the chat where you're from, what groups you're with. We want everybody to see how people are from all over the country are with us. This is really a cool thing. So let me tell you who are our officers that are here today. We have Tamara Melzer Levenson, who is our executive director. We have Justin, oh my God, Justin Kelly. Justin Kelly. I'm a little brain dead, everybody. My apologies. Justin Kelly, who's our organizing director, Daniela Maycock, who's our digital director, Davis, who's our senior strategist, Pamela McAfee, our distributive organizer and community liaison. And we have many other officers, but they're not here tonight. So everybody, I want you to give a little hand of appreciation for our officers. Yay. All right, tonight is, as we said, this is the Harnessing the Power of Gen Z to Help Win the Midterms event. And we're going to be talking about what techniques, what things work to attract young Gen Z voters, and also the most recent research on how they're becoming more and more disenchanted with that orange guy in the White House. So it's going to be a great evening. We're going to then explain all our youth programs to you. We are really something when it comes to the youth programs, and we're developing quite a reputation for our youth programs. So you'll hear all about them tonight, and you'll be able to ask questions at the end. If you have questions in the meantime, while our speaker is speaking, put them in the chat, and that way we can ask those questions when it's time. Okay? So again, thank you all for coming. I'm now going to introduce our senior strategist, Mr. Davis Hahn. Davis, take it away.
Thank you, Melissa. And I actually want to pass the mic real quick to Tamara because she just texted me behind the scenes that she has a quick special announcement that she wants to make.
Okay, fantastic. Hello, everyone. My name is Tamara Melzer Levinson. I am the executive director of the Grassroots Democrats HQ. And the reason that I'm coming to you right now is someone just private messaged me in the Zoom. We have 79 people here, which I do have to say for this time of year, this is like an incredible group of people. We thank you. They just let me know that if we can get at least $5,000 during the course of this happy hour, they really want to make an investment in the youth programming. So would you please, please, please help us? We're going to start putting a link in. You're going to hear everything that we're doing. If it actually moves you and you would donate, we're going to get a $5,000 match. I'd love to go over that. It was not a plan, but for the anonymous donor in the room, thank you so much for that opportunity. I hope I plugged it exactly like you wanted to hear it, and turning it back to you now, Davis.
Thank you, Tamara. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. As Melissa and Tamara mentioned, I'm Davis Hahn. I'm the Grassroots Democrats HQ Senior Strategist. Before we hand it over to our special guest to do a deep dive on the Gen Z vote this year in the midterms, I wanted to give you a little bit of background information and an overview of the nationwide political climate across all age groups as we really start to head into the home stretch of this year's midterm elections. As with most things in American politics right now, the political climate pretty much starts and ends on a lot of levels with the president, Donald Trump. And at this point in time, Trump is a historically unpopular second-term president. His approval ratings in particular have taken a hit over the past month since he launched his unlawful, unprovoked war in Iran. The war is deeply unpopular with Americans, and his approval rating has declined into the high 30s on average. Some reputable polls have even had it around 35%. That's a significant decline over just the past several weeks. And his approval rating, in particular among independents in a lot of those polls, is now even into the high 20s. Why does the president's approval matter so much in a midterm year? Well, it's the number one predictor of any data point of how a midterm election is going to go. And we're seeing Trump's unpopularity being reflected on the the generic ballot right now as well, where Democrats have opened up nearly a 6-point lead. That's a pretty sizable advantage, particularly given the fact that the Democratic Party is not exactly all that popular right now in all of these polls from a branding perspective. But for some historical context, this is about where Democrats were on the generic ballot this time in 2018. And we, of course, know that was a big wave year election for our party. But it's not just polls suggesting that it's a pretty favorable climate right now. We have had a lot of election results painting a similar picture as well. If you were on our last happy hour back in December, that was our 2025 end of year recap and celebration. We went over all of the data that's on your screen now. These are the 4 major statewide elections that happened in 2025. And across those elections, we saw an average swing towards the Democrats of 9.5 points from 2024. So far in 2026, that trend has not only continued, it's continued in a big way. Just last week, there was a special election in Wisconsin for an open seat on the state Supreme Court. The Grassroots Democrats HQ had been working on that race since the beginning of the year. We were on the ground helping turn out voters for Chris Taylor, who is the liberal candidate endorsed by the Democratic Party in that race. If you remember, a year ago, there was another special election for the court in Wisconsin. We all contacted hundreds of thousands of voters. We elected Susan Crawford to the court to preserve the liberal 4-3 at the time majority. Susan Crawford won that race by 10 points statewide, and that was considered a landslide at the time. Wisconsin, of course, is about as 50-50 of a state as you can get. It voted for Trump by less than a point in 2016, Biden by less than a point in 2020, Trump again by less than a point in 2024. So for Susan Crawford to win by 10 points last year, that was a pretty big deal. Last week, Chris Taylor won by 20 points statewide. Not only that, she flipped a number of counties that have been deep red Republican strongholds for decades, counties that Trump won by 20 plus point margin. It was a really, really striking margin of victory. She ran up the score really across the state and locked in a 5-2 liberal majority now on the court through at least 2030, which is going to be really important for voting rights, election integrity, reproductive rights, and a whole other host of issues. So that's a big win that kind of signifies where the country is at right now. And it's not just Wisconsin. There have been a bunch of special elections for state legislative seats across the country so far this year. The 3 on your screen are just 3 that have gotten a lot of attention in recent weeks. There was a state Senate race in Texas where the Democratic candidate flipped a seat that Trump had won in that district in the Dallas-Fort Worth exurbs by 17 points. Donald Trump's home district, where Mar-a-Lago is located for the Florida House of Representatives, just flipped from Republican to Democrat in another district where the Republican candidate just a year and a half ago had won by 19 points. And then in Georgia, for Marjorie Taylor Greene's old seat in Congress, of course, she resigned earlier this year. The Democratic candidate didn't win, but they outperformed the Democratic candidate in 2024, again, by a 17-point margin. It's an even broader margin, I think a 26-point swing if you compare it to how Donald Trump did when he was on the ballot in that district in 2024. He won there by about 37 points. Of course, special elections are not necessarily always accurate predictors of what is going to happen when a broader swath of the electorate comes out to vote in a presidential or a midterm election. And there are things that we need to be mindful of heading into this November. One of those being that Republicans are doing everything that they can to mitigate how unpopular their agenda is and try and silence the people who are motivated to come out and vote against them. And the primary way we've seen them do that so far is through redistricting. And that is why next week, in just 6 days from right now, we have an extremely important special election in Virginia. The voters there are being asked to approve a new congressional map that would be 10-1 in favor of the Democrats. This is a direct response to what Republicans have been doing in states like Texas, what they're about to most likely do in Florida later this year. And passing this measure is very important to ensure that we go into November on a level playing field in terms of the fight for the House and make sure that voters have a fair chance to voice their displeasure with this administration and the Republican Party's agenda. As of right now, the polling shows that this race is not a given to be a Democratic victory. We know that there are a lot of Democratic and independent voters who hate gerrymandering. And so we have to be contacting them, talking with them, explaining why this temporary measure needs to go into place and that we're still committed long term to fighting for fair redistricting, just like we did in California. So you're going to hear some more about ways you can get involved in this race later on in the evening, but very important that we win that race that the polls are showing is pretty close as of right now. So what does this all mean heading into November? What are the big takeaways from this? As I mentioned at the top, the political climate is looking very favorable for Democrats right now. And don't cancel me for putting a prediction market screenshot on here. I only included it because it really does speak to the vibe change that has happened over the past several months. In that Democrats, according to prediction markets, are now even considered to be slight favorites to win back the Senate. If you had asked any, talking head pundit on CNN or MS Now a year ago, they would have told you that was probably impossible because of the map that's up this year. The states that will decide the majority are states that Donald Trump won. That is how unpopular the Republicans are right now, that Democrats are not only favored in the House, prediction markets are saying, hey, they're actually a slight favorite to maybe even win back the Senate as well. So that's all good news. But two very big caveats. One, we have to make sure we're starting from a level playing field. Yes, that starts with mitigating redistricting in Virginia, but that also means closer to election day, contacting voters, making sure they have the most up-to-date information about how, where, and when they can cast their ballot and ensure it's counted. Because as we just saw in the Texas primary a few weeks ago, Republicans have all sorts of tricks up their sleeve that they're going to try and resort to suppress our voters and try and keep their votes from being counted. They're going to change polling places days before the election. They're going to change the hours that you can go vote and the days that you can go vote. They're going to implement new voter ID restrictions if they can. It's going to be up to us to get in contact with our base voters and make sure they are armed with the information that they need to be able to effectively cast their ballot and make sure that it's counted. And then, of course, Donald Trump won on a very fragile coalition of disaffected voters, a lot of voters who don't like either political party. And a lot of those voters are the ones who are the most upset with him right now. And they are at risk of just staying home this November and becoming disaffected non-voters. For us to win majorities in both chambers of Congress, we need to be talking to those voters and having conversations with them that might say, hey, whatever you might not like the Democratic Party nationally as a brand, but there is a Democratic candidate running for House or Senate in your state or in your district that cares about the issues you care about, is fighting for you and for your values. And this is why it's so important that you go out and vote for them. So no matter how favorable things might look, there is a lot of work cut out for us over the next 6 months. We can't afford to take our foot off the gas. So thank you all for remaining committed to that. I know that's why you're here tonight. And now we can shift the conversation over to our main event, which is about the Gen Z vote. And I have the honor of introducing our special guest speaker for this evening. Eve Levenson is someone I've had the honor of knowing and working with for as long as I've been working in Democratic politics, since 2018. She's an organizer and a strategist with extensive experience really in every aspect of political campaigning, but one of her areas of expertise is youth organizing. She's currently the board chair for Voters of Tomorrow, which is one of our phenomenal partner organizations. We do a ton of work with them in the youth organizing space. And she was previously the National Youth Vote Director for the Harris Walz campaign in 2024. So please, everyone, join me in welcoming Eve Levenson.
Hi, all. Thanks so much for having me. Great to see so many familiar faces. So I'm going to share a little bit today about some research that I've been working on, especially around college voters in particular, which is something that currently right now I do a lot of work with, including through my day job where I work with Light Desk and campus advertising.
Eve, can you turn your volume a little higher? You're very soft.
I can talk louder. I'm not normally asked to do that. That's crazy. Okay. Anybody who knows me knows I'm usually
she
asked
isn't
to.
wrong. You do sound soft, so you got to.
It's because I'm not using my computer, so I'm not used to this audio apparently. Okay, I cannot though hit the slides. Thank you. Okay, so sorry, I'm really not used to being asked to talk louder. That's crazy. Okay, so the research that I am going to share here today is mostly from two different reports that I've worked on, looking sort of at what happened with the college vote first in the 2024 election and then in the 2025 election. So in 2024, looking specifically at college students in 2020 in battleground states for the presidential, in addition to Ohio, and in 2025, mostly looking in Pennsylvania and Virginia. How we get to this information is a combination of student survey responses by reaching out to students directly in those states, as well as doing a precinct analysis. So looking at precincts that we know have at least 49 to 50% of registered voters there who are 18 to 24-year-olds. And it turns out that when you look at that, all of them overlap with a college campus, which makes sense when you think about where students are voting. We also have a ton of insights from folks that worked on and ran programs to turn out college students and persuade students and young voters. Next slide. So overall, when we look at the student vote in 2024, what we saw is that turnout dropped compared to 2020 and dropped about 6 percentage points looking between those two elections. Next slide. We saw a much actually smaller drop in vote share for Democrats. We saw that it was only a 2 percentage point drop. But when you look at non-college youth specifically, if you're looking at sort of the overall 18 to 29-year-old, we saw that there was sort of a lot less support for Harris over Trump, looking at only 51% of 18 to 29-year-olds supporting Harris over Trump, whereas when you look specifically at those college voters in battleground states, it was 78%. So what that really suggests is that what happened in 2024 when we see this sort of big shift to the right that folks talked about is that it was really a combination of the non-college youth shifting more to the left, shifting more to the right, and a decrease in turnout among college youth. Next slide. A little bit more about some other things when you look sort of at that partisanship and vote choice in 2024 is that only 1.5% of college voters voted third party, which actually was down from 2020, which I think goes contrary to a lot of the sort of narratives that existed out there. We also know that similar to all voters and all young voters especially, that the partisan gender gap grew. So sort of seeing a larger difference in how young men and young women are voting both on and off college campuses. We also know that even the whitest campus precincts voted for Harris by over 70%, really suggesting that sort of college students as a target are a consistent voting bloc or a consistent Democratic voting bloc across different demographics. We also know that there's minimal difference in turnout or partisanship by age or class year. Next slide. This graph specifically comes from us talking to talking to organizers and program managers and asking the folks that were working on youth and college programs in 2024 why, based off of what they saw and experienced, do they think Democrats lost ground with students in 2024. And pretty clearly, the number one reason was insufficient persuasion messaging targeting to young people. And so that means, right, that there were a lot of great efforts to be turning out students, to be registering students, to making sure they knew about when and where and how to vote, but not enough about what the issues were, about what was actually about stake, about doing that in that more candidate-specific partisan lens. There are also obviously a number of other reasons. There's never only one reason why a shift happens. But then when we look at 2025, we saw a pretty significant shift across turnout and vote choice. So what we saw in 2025, again, looking both in Pennsylvania and Virginia, which saw two very different elections. Pennsylvania was a Supreme Court retention election. The Virginia obviously had the gubernatorial race, in addition to the full House of Delegates race up, is that turnout among those college students really increased significantly in both states. Next slide. And then what we also saw is that that's true across vote share as well. So in Virginia, we're able to look at sort of what does this look like both from 2021 to 2025, which is the last gubernatorial election, but also how did folks vote in the 2024 election? And what we saw was definitely an increase in the percentage of students that are supporting the Democrat looking compared to both of those past elections. We also saw that this was consistent sort of among the broader youth demographic and also across other elections as well. So we saw that that was the case in New Jersey and Virginia, both of which saw significantly higher turnout than in past gubernatorial elections. And we know that's also the case in terms of the other elections that happened. This is one of my favorite graphs from the 2025 election, but when you look at exit polls of Prop 50 in California, 18 to 24-year-olds supported Prop 50 by the largest margin of any age group, which also really shows that I think young voters are getting back to sort of the way that we were looking at them in sort of that 2018 to 2022 period, which is that young people are showing the strongest support for Democrats, but not always voting at those higher, as at high of levels as their older counterparts. We asked then the campus organizers and program staff that we spoke to in 2025, sort of the inverse of that question we asked them in 2024, which is why did Dems gain ground? And the number one reason is sort of that frustration at the Trump administration. The number two reason was focused messaging on student issues and affordability, really showing sort of campaigns and programs really being responsive to sort of what were the things that were viewed as missing in 2024. But I do think it's important to note that a lot of that right now is still sort of in opposition to what they're seeing coming from the Trump admin and not necessarily because folks are necessarily super excited right now about Democrats. Then to go into a little bit more here about sort of like what is on students' minds now. And this includes data both that was gathered in 2024 and 2025, but also so far this year specifically in February of 2026. To the next slide. So overall, when we look at sort of like what are the issues students care about, and I think if most folks here were to think like, what do you think young people care about? We oftentimes are assuming that young people are caring about social issues first. And I think that that was the case again from that sort of 2018 to 2022 period. When you looked at the research sort of that I'm pulling from here, when you look at other research from Circle or other places, it would say those top issues for young voters across the board are going to be a mix of climate change, racial justice, abortion and repro rights, gun violence prevention. But what we saw in 2024 and since then is that economy is really going up there to be that number one or that number two issue all the time. In 2024, we saw that it was economy was number one, abortion number two, and then healthcare costs and protecting democracy would really end up in that number three, number four spot. In 2025, we saw protecting democracy increase to that number one spot with the economy at number two, and then abortion, repro, and healthcare. And then when we asked folks in February of this year, it was abortion and repro number one, followed by economy, and then healthcare costs, and then immigration. What this suggests, right, is that young voters are not that different than older voters. If you ask any, like across like pretty much any cross-cutting category, what is the number one issue? It's going to be the economy. It's going to be something like healthcare costs. And I think that that shows that while young people maybe are experiencing that differently, the costs that they're dealing with are going to be differently. The housing costs are going to be different. If you're thinking about healthcare, people oftentimes think that that's not going to impact young people as much because they're more likely to be on their parents' healthcare, or they're likely to be, especially students, on their like a healthcare plan to the university. And that doesn't mean that folks aren't experiencing what's happening. Even if maybe you aren't having to pay increased premiums, you might still be seeing those increase in how much your prescription costs in your copay. You're seeing the conversation. Maybe your parents are covering the cost of the increased premium, but they're still talking to you about it to understand. Maybe that means they're not able to help you with another cost. Next slide. And then speaking about that, to go a little bit more into the economy, when students say what that economy is a priority, what do they really mean? The number one answer here is cost of housing, followed by job prospects. What's really interesting about housing costs specifically, right, is that while for so many young people today, the thought of being a homeowner is like so out of reach for them, but they're still experiencing those housing costs. And specifically when you look at like college campuses, it tends to be that like these special interests will buy up and then like all the housing in your campus and then be able to jack up those prices. So the way that folks are experiencing and the way they need to be talked about it is very specific, especially for students. Then specifically, also job prospects would be the other big one. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I think the Wi-Fi just went out for a second. And then they're looking at student loans, but I think it's important to note even there that Again, the way that we talk to folks about this matters when there was obviously great student debt cancellation that happened under the Biden administration, but a lot of that didn't actually get to be felt by current students, let alone recent grads, because it was only effective for those that have been paying off their debt for 10 years. So when talking to these folks about student debt, yes, maybe it could be helpful to reference what was done there, but really we need to be coming to them with a message about something different and something new and what folks are going to do to fight to help them in the debt that they're accumulating currently or recently accumulated. Next slide. Students overall also are not happy with how the Trump administration is handling the economy. They definitely don't trust that the Republican Party understands the concerns that they're facing, but they also don't necessarily agree that strongly that the Democratic Party does either. They definitely much more so feel that way, but there's definitely a lot of folks that have not, and so there's a lot of work to be done there. Then going to another issue we did a deep dive on, that's particularly relevant now, is looking at immigration. So we know that there is strong disapproval of how both ICE and the Trump administration are handling immigration. Strongly disapprove was the largest, was what a majority of respondents said here for both of these. Next slide. And we also know that the majority of students are thinking that ICE is too aggressive and also that they're making Americans less safe. I think this is pretty consistent with what you see when you're looking at sort of voters overall and Americans overall, but I definitely think there's a larger portion of students that are having these very clearly negative views of ICE right now. There's also a majority of them that want to see ICE reformed or abolished. The majority there, plurality do want to see ICE put checks made there. What's interesting here is that that holds true even amongst Republican students, that they want to see those checks. And also it's much more likely when you sort of look at the crosstabs for students of color and female students to support abolishing ICE. That was the end of the slides I had. Were we doing Q&A now or after? I forget what it said.
I think we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of Q&A. So if people have questions, I have a couple of immediate follow-up questions. We'll have time to, I think, take probably like 3 or 4 in total. So if people have questions, please go ahead and put those into the chat, and we'll try and get as many of them answered. One question that I do have for you, Eve, and thank you for that very detailed presentation, is how would you say, there's been a lot of talk, I would say, ever since 2024 about, are young people responsive to the traditional modes of campaigning? And, how are they getting their news? How are they getting their information? And how does that differ from the traditional ways that we've thought about how we need to reach voters? Do you have any thoughts on, anything that the data has shown about that, or how you think maybe that Democratic campaigns and organizations like ours need to be creative when we're thinking about how to reach out to young people over the next 6 months?
Yeah, definitely. I think that I'm going to have 2 answers to that. I don't think the quote unquote typical ways of voter contact from campaigns are good, but I do think the typical ways that you do campus organizing are still true. I think that very frequently I talk to people who are like, my first job 40 years ago was being a campus organizer. These were the tactics we did. I'm like, yep, it's pretty much still the same tactics. There's a lot of things on college campuses that are still true. You're going to want a high traffic campus. You're going to want a dorm store. You want to go and figure out how to connect with the different groups that are happening on campus. And then also, as long as there's been any sort of amount of social media or online community connected to a campus, that's also been something folks have wanted to target. So I think in that sense, right, there's been a lot of hype about only doing digital, right? And it's we still need to do the in-person work. We need to do sort of all of the above. So I think that is still true and very important, and empowering young people to be doing that work is very important. I think also that folks are getting information overload, which is why trying to break through and figuring out how do we make sure that we're showing up where they're going to school, in that community there, showing up in their phone, showing up online, and doing an all of the above approach is so important.
And then when we're having those conversations, the data that you showed shows that, young people don't necessarily have a lot of built-in trust with the Democratic Party. That's part of the story that we saw in 2024. And also, just in general, young people tend to not be as partisan or identify very strongly with either political party as much as previous generations. So, how would you say that we need to account for that in our messaging or in the conversations we're having? And like, do you have any just broad tips for like if we're having a conversation with someone who, is not happy with the Trump administration, but also is very, very clearly unhappy with their view of the National Democratic Party as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the most important thing is making sure that like we're talking to students about the issues that are impacting them. And so I think I'd say actually before that, like not being presumptive, not assuming that if your goal is to be getting a specific Democrat elected, that simply making sure that person knows where and how to vote, that means they're going to show up and vote for your person, right? They need to be both get that information about where and how to vote, which would be very difficult in some places as attacks on student voting continue to be something that we see specifically coming from the Trump admin. But then you also need to make sure that they understand how are they experiencing the issue, right? If it is the economy, maybe talking about like the student debt cancellation that happened before, that's not going to necessarily be that effective. Talking about like a plan for first time home buyers when a young person is just struggling to figure out how to pay their rent isn't going to be effective. So talking specifically about like how are the candidates you're supporting, what are their plans for that, why are you willing to support them, etc., I think is particularly important, and really equipping whoever's having those conversations, ideally a young person, to be able to talk about those concerns and to be able to talk about what that positive vision is, and not just what is sort of Trump doing that's bad, but what are our candidates that we're supporting doing that's going to make their lives better, and in the specific way that we know the concerns for that young person.
Yeah, I think we have one more question that I see specific to young people, and for folks who have general questions just about other issues or ways that you can get involved, we're going to have another kind of more informal Q&A session at the end of the program with all of our team. So please stick around for that. But for you, Eve, Lynn brought up the idea of I think voter suppression tactics, and it's something that I mentioned earlier that I think we're really going to see Republicans try and lean into where they can in places where they control the levers of power over the next 6 months because they recognize how unpopular they are. So when it comes to things like voter ID laws or pushes, in line with the SAVE Act, which of course is in all likelihood not going to be passed. But with Republicans looking at these types of restrictions at the state and local level, how could that potentially impact young people in particular?
Yeah, I think it's going to impact young people a lot. Young people don't have their birth certificates. I don't have my birth certificate. I'm 26. I'm in the solid middle range of the 18 to 29 demo, right? Like needing to find that second form of ID is going to be a really big problem. Also, right, there's been a really big effort to make sure that students are able to vote using their student ID, because we know that students are more likely to vote if they are registered and vote where they go to school. That would not be allowed with the SAVE Act. But I think the other thing important to keep in mind is that whether or not the SAVE Act passes, there's still going to be all of this voter suppression. And we know that they're going to target specifically college campuses, because college campuses tend to be these places where we know that they vote so overwhelmingly Democratic. So it's not a coincidence that it's happening there. There's also lots of instances where on election days, and I've seen this time after time again when I've been on a college campus on election day, the lines are so long because the election officials aren't properly prepared for it. We know that a lot of those young people are voting with provisional ballots that are maybe more likely to get rejected afterwards. So I think that's what makes all the work to be educating folks and young people on that work, and making sure that folks are going to be equipped to be able to do the work that needs to happen for like that poll watching on the day of, that line management on the day of, and then also plans to make sure that folks get their ballots cured afterwards if they need to, is just so important. But I think, right, the only answer is we don't know exactly. I mean, we know sort of the variety of tactics they're going to use to suppress the youth vote and the student vote. We don't know necessarily which ones are going to be used where right now, but so that means that we need to have more resources, money, people power, etc., information as soon as possible to make sure that we're equipped to counteract it and can turn out enough people to win anyways.
Okay, well, I mean, I think that gives us a lot of a lot of marching orders for things that we need to be focused on and working on. And I know our youth programming is already focused on a lot of these kinds of initiatives, and Justin's going to be able to share some details on all of that with you all momentarily. But thank you so much, Eve, for taking the time to join us tonight. If everyone could please give her a virtual round of applause for spending some of her evening with us and for sharing all of that really helpful information. And Eve, before you jump off, I'm going to pass it over to Tamara to lead us in taking a big group photo so we can share out what a great crowd of people that we had assembled together here tonight and create FOMO for our future happy hours and volunteer events.
Fantastic. So for those of you who do not know what FOMO is, that stands for fear of missing out. For all those people who were not smart enough to join us tonight, there will be a recording of everything we're doing, but we do want to put out a photo. So if you do have with you a glass of wine, a soda, a cup of tea, whatever you have, hold it on up so that we can take a picture together. So here we go. Hold on one second. And we got one. Ooh, let's see. Okay, we got one. Hold on. I got to do another one because I have several screens. We have too many people here. Keep on holding it up. Two. And three. And we have one more because there's so many people here. Either that or I just have a really small computer screen. Four. Thank you so much, everybody. I just want you to know that we had at the height so far 84 people in the room, which is really exciting. I want to give a huge thank you to Eve. I want you to know that some of the programs that we are going to be talking about right now that Justin is going to be sharing with us, some of them came from programs that Eve Levenson helped us design in the very beginning. When she's talking about everything about what is needed, what people care about, how you organize, the organizing that it takes to do that is what we are doing and what we are so proud to do. So Eve, I just want to thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you for inspiring us to do more. Thank you for designing some of the programs that we are currently running still today. And for those of you, I do want to tell you one more thing, which is that people were so inspired by what she was speaking. If you help me out, I have another donor who was inspired by that $500 donor who then said, if I can keep going and I can get some more matching, they'll toss in another $1,000. So let's hear what Justin's saying about what it is that we're doing and the work that we're doing, and help us to make sure that we have the ability to fund the programming to reach the young adults, to harness the power that we are talking about today. Thanks. Go for it, Justin.
Okay. Lovely. Can everybody hear me? Can I get a thumbs up? Beautiful. Thank you. Wonderful. So, thank you all so much. Thank you, Eve, if you're still here. Eve is incredible. And like Tamara said, a lot of these programs that we run and have been running for years were born out of the incredible work that Eve has done. So really glad you guys were all here and got to hear some really amazing insight from her. So just want to share with you guys an update of what we've been up to in our youth programming this year so far in 2026. We have 4 different components to our youth programming where we're doing year-round organizing both on the ground in California and our key congressional districts that we need to either defend or flip to take back the House, and also distributively across the country where we have students in a training program who are doing peer-to-peer phone banking to their peers in our key races. But we're on campuses, we're making calls on the phones, and we're doing exactly what Eve mentioned, meeting students where they are to talk about the issues that are most important to them. And we're doing it early, which is so critical. We're not waiting until the fall. We're already on the ground right now. And you can move to the next slide. So the first program I want to talk about is our Organize for Democracy program. It's an incredible virtual program we do with our amazing partners at Blue Future. This program began in 2021, and through that 14 cohorts we've done of the program, which we're currently on our 14th right now, we've been able to train over 700 young adults all across the country from dozens of states who get paid each week to join a 8 or 9 week cohort. We generally hire 50 to, if we can raise enough money, 150 students at the peak we did for GOTV during 2024. And we pay them to participate in a full training program for 8 or 9 weeks, multiple times across the election cycle. And they get to learn all the important elements of organizing, hear from guest speakers on different topic areas, interact with the elected officials we work with. And then they commit to volunteering their time, making 5 hours of phone calls a week to young voters in each of the key Senate, congressional, and during presidential years, presidential races we work on. Since 2021, that program has made over 1.3 million phone calls to young voters all across the country for dozens of critical races, and it's really been a incredible impact that has helped put us over the finish line in several of these races. Really quickly, want to just talk about the accomplishments of the program so far in 2025 and what we're doing in 26. So in 2025, we ran 3 of these cohorts. We trained a total of 149 students across the country who were paid to participate in that training program, and they made over 323,000 phone calls to young voters through their volunteer work. And that helped us win the Wisconsin Supreme Court race in 2025 and defend our liberal majority by electing Judge Susan Crawford, helped us elect Governor Spamberger in Virginia and deliver a historic majority in Virginia's House of Delegates. And now we are about halfway through our first cohort of 2026. We have 50 students in our program. In just their first 3 weeks of calling, they've made over 34,000 phone calls to young voters. First in Wisconsin for the Supreme Court race that we just won a couple weeks ago, as well as doing early outreach to young voters in our key California races. So we will be running that program all the way through May, and we have plans with enough funding and your help to be able to run 2 more of those cohorts in the summer and the fall to make sure we're able to win all these really important Senate and congressional seats we need to win this year. We can move to the next slide. On the ground, specifically in California, we are running a expanded college campus program, more expanded than we've ever done before. We've been running this program for years in our key congressional districts in California, but it really took off during Prop 50. In a 6-week period in Prop 50, when we knew we needed to get out and organize young people on college campuses statewide in California, we designed and executed a program with 13 paid organizers across 13 different college campuses in the state of California. And they were doing weekly high traffic canvassing shifts, recruiting their friends, recruiting their club members. We had a great partnership with California College Democrats, Voters of Tomorrow, Blue Future, and several other really incredible youth organizing partners. And in that 6-week period, our paid organizers and their volunteers were able to recruit 350 volunteers to join their shifts. They collected over 1,000 commitments to vote in the election for Prop 50 and had approximately over 7,600 conversations with their peers before Election Day. So we saw how much we could do, how impactful it could be in just such a short period. So for 2026, we're bringing that same style of our program back, but to our 4 congressional districts. We currently have 5 or 6 campuses we're already on in our 4 targeted congressional districts in California. And our students are out there once a week, same thing, recruiting their friends, recruiting their club members, hosting tabling shifts on their campuses where they're both registering voters, but also exactly like what you've talked about, talking to them about the issues that matter to them. And then as well, looping that back to the election, why it's so important they vote, and giving them the necessary information to actually turn out to the polls in both June and in November. We can move to the next slide. And then additionally, another paid program we are currently running in California, which we've run for the past several cycles, is a paid canvassing program. So for students who are in high school or who are not on a college campus but want to get out there and do this work, we offer a stipend program where we pay accepted students a stipend to go out and canvass with the Grassroots Dems HQ, the California Democratic Party, and our key congressional races at least 2 times a month. In just 2 months since February, our student canvassers have already knocked on over 1,000 doors across all 4 of our districts. We're bringing more on every single day who are going to amplify those efforts. And this program is incredible. In 2024, our paid student canvassing team knocked on over 12,000 doors across California. We think we're going to do even more this year with your help. But we're truly building a pipeline of talented organizers who are from these key districts. And they're also the ones who bring their friends, bring more young people through the door to attend these campuses and really get that real campaign experience. And then our final program is our volunteer fellowship program. At any given time, we have approximately 40 to 50 fellows from all around the country who organize with us year round, both virtually and for fellows who are in Los Angeles, in person with us. And they genuinely help us run the most important pieces of our operation and the day-to-day work we have to get done to get volunteers into our actions and contact more voters. So they do everything from helping to lead and assist on our national phone banks and help train our volunteers, help with tech difficulties, whatever it may be, to really facilitate those and make sure those actions are happening. They do all the volunteer recruitment calls. If you're on our volunteer list and you're getting recruitment calls to join a canvas or to join a phone bank, it's likely that came from one of our fellows. Also, there's opportunities for them to get involved with social media, with helping with fundraising, etc. So really all the aspects that it takes to run a campaign, to run an organization like the Grassroots Stems HQ, we train them and give them those opportunities to really grow and become the best organizers they can be. They're genuinely the backbone of all of the work that we do. We can move to the next slide. And then just a fun fact to share with you guys is last month in March, for our work in Prop 50, the Grassroots Stems HQ received 2 national awards at the Reed Awards Conference in South Carolina for our work in Prop 50. We won two awards. I'll specifically talk about the Youth Award, but we won Best GOTV or Field Campaign for California for our work on Prop 50 and our General Field program. And we also specifically won Best GOTV Campaign to mobilize young voters for the work we did on college campuses and through our paid canvassing program. So that was, like I said, one of the most impactful programs we've ever done on the campuses, at the doors, and really built up a huge, strong coalition of young people who are ready to get on the ground and do the work in 2026. So I kind of want to just end with this before I pass it to Tamara. I just hope from what you've heard from Eve, what you heard from the programming that we're doing, we're not just investing in young adults who are doing this critical, important work and organizing their peers to get out to the polls this cycle, but we're really building and investing in a pipeline of hundreds of talented organizers from all across the country who are going to be essential to not just winning in November 2026, but to winning in every single cycle after that. So I hope this gives you guys a better picture of all the incredible work our young people are doing and why your support matters so much to us. So with that, I'm going to pass it to our incredible executive director, Tamara Melzer-Levenson.
Hey guys, so I know that when I was just quickly typing in the background that I misspelled some things. So when I was trying to thank all of the different donors, but first of all, the anticipation when we came in here was not that we had these matching donors, but what I want to say is what I'm feeling by what is happening here is, number one, I get excited by our youth program every day. I am the class of 2016, and I started volunteering because I had a young woman who was asking me questions I didn't know the answers. Then I got engaged, and then I found out that young adults want to do work, but they just needed a space to do it, and we have given that space. So if you want to know that we are harnessing what young adults are doing, if you want to see young adults, what I want everybody to remember is what you just saw. You cannot walk away from here saying young adults don't do anything. Number one, this program was just run by young adults. That is the key in actually making young adult programming work. Number two, we just learned what young adults care about based on actual data as to what they're caring about so we can go out there and reach them. We need people to feel like they have the agency, they have the space, that their votes actually matter and that they are cared about. The Grassroots Democrats HQ harnesses that energy. We are building a pipeline of opportunity, and we have over 1,000 young adults who have come through our various programs. I want to give a huge thank you to Eve Levenson, to Justin Kelly, to Davis Hahn. You guys are all people that have been leaders in our youth programming. Justin, if I've missed anybody who's in this space right now, I think there's also, do you want to give a big thank you to the young adults that are here?
I was going to say thank you. I know I've seen many of your names on here, people who are fellows, who have been OFD, Organized for Democracy alumni with us, who are in our paid canvassing program or have participated in the past. I know I've seen several of you on my screen, and I want to just thank you guys for your tireless efforts and for being here and for continuing to do this work with us.
So, and we're going to take some time to do some question and answers now. We're going to put in the chat a few more links. Number one, I'm going to challenge you that even if you aren't somebody who are like, God, that was a really big amount that somebody donated, I can't match the whole thing. Please take the link. And if you could donate $10 or $25 every month, that would be huge. There are people in this space that I know do that regularly, and I really want to thank you. Goodwater, I want to answer your question that this programming is not only in California. We started in California in 2018, but we're a national program. If you are happy with what just happened in Wisconsin with the Supreme Court, and we won that by a 20-point margin, the Grassroots Democrats HQ was running two of their national Zooms. If you're excited about what's happening right now in Virginia and we want to win their redistricting, we are running two of their national Zooms as well. Pamela McAfee happens to be on the Zoom right now, and she's one of the people that is leading. We have many others here who have been leading the work. I see Skylar Phelps, who literally I see him on phone banks all the time. Pinky, I think single-handedly, you probably make so many phone calls to all these places, and we're literally across the country. Love you, Pinky. And there are people here as well. I want to give a shout out, and I'm going to miss a few. If I don't say your names, you can put it in the chat. Diana Love is also on the call right now. She is one of our advisory board members and is also an executive board member. I'm going to think it is the secretary of the California Democratic Party. So we do not only work in California, we work across the country. So please join us. We will be doing another happy hour soon where we'll be able to talk about more of those priorities that we're doing across the country. But what I want to do right now is to open it up for general question and answers. I want us to put into the chat, Pam, if you could do me a favor, just put the one link that says, use this link to volunteer. So we actually have what we call our link tree. Our link tree is where you can go and you can find all the opportunities for volunteering. Your time is worth money. Your time is worth gold. So please find a phone bank that you want to join on. Get some postcards. I will say postcarding is wonderful and it builds community. We want to do it. And we push postcards across the whole country for races. And we need you, if you're postcarding, to join a phone bank, to go out door knocking. And by the way, for those of you that are going out protesting, every time that you are on the streets, making sure that our voices are heard, collectively ensuring that as a country, our voices are heard. When you're out there, you can get people to volunteer as well. So we're going to keep putting the links in there for volunteering and donating. And now I'm going to open it up for question and answer. So do me a favor and just raise your hand, and we're going to start taking questions and answers. Well, I'm not going to I mean, we're going to find some answers for you. So anybody have any questions, comments, things that you want to share? And Nay, it's great to have you here. And Nay literally leads our postcard program. He's a student that is now a college student. He started off in high school. Thank you for leading our postcard program. Anybody have any questions? Really?
Hammer, there was one in the chat earlier.
Oh, great. Go ahead and ask it.
Two things. One of them was about podcasting. And I don't know if Bart, there you go, Bart, as if on cue.
Go ahead, Bart. What did you want to say?
I just want to say that I'm so excited. This group is giving me I feel like I'm injected with energy.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, so I'm in Benicia, California, and I've been an activist for many years now, at least for 10 years. And I work with a group where I'm training local podcasting as a way to bridge the gap, between just regular canvassing, phone banking, all that, to help get out to more voters. And we really need a lot of young people coming in to help us with podcasting. And we have a really great program. I'm just volunteering to help people with your groups with this. So I'm working with Arizona Democrats now, and I'm working with a bunch of other groups. But it's so much fun because we're seeing it work locally here in Benicia. So anyway, I just wanted to mention it's exciting and new and fun, and I can feel the energy in this group. It's like, right, help it out.
First of all,
you're muted.
Yeah, no. So I want to tell you, I love that, because one of the things that we are finding just in general in the election process is that in order for us to reach voters, we have to go to non-traditional means. Meaning that we need to do many different things. So many people ask, does phone banking really work? And it's like, actually, phone banking absolutely works. And we know that door knocking works the absolute best. And what we also know is that people are going and getting their news from a variety of different places. So if you are setting up podcasts and those are spaces that people are listening, we need to
Yep.
be there. We found during the last election cycle that there were investments that were being made in making sure that we aren't just getting onto a news podcast, but people might have a knitting a crew, right? And they're
Correct.
doing something online. And when they're knitting, and then that person who's knitting figured out that they really liked a candidate and they talked about it, boom, it actually made a difference. We know that when a candidate gets onto a podcast about boxing, all those people that are listening to boxing who then suddenly hear that their favorite boxer really loved X candidate,
Yep.
that does push a needle. I do want to give a plug for something the Grassroots Democrats HQ is doing. We created a creators table for the young adults.
Oh,
And that is
fantastic.
another thing. If you are making a donation right now, I want you to think about where that donation is actually going. The young adults that we have, they're doing the phone banking, they're doing the door knocking, they're leading on the college campuses. They do the administrative work in the background for us, but then
Wow.
they started to be creators. You need to join all of our social media platforms. If you are not already following and friending us, please do on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Blue Sky, and join our YouTube channel. There's a young woman who's sitting right next to me here who joined as our communications and social media director. Go ahead and just introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Daniela, and I'm super excited to be a part of the GDHQ. I used to work for major media companies like Disney and Fox Sports, but I wanted to switch into more social impact. And so I had worked on the Harris Walls campaign as a campus organizer, and I'm so excited to be with the GDHQ.
And so what I want you to know is that we understand that we have to build a pipeline of people that aren't just doing the traditional means of communication, but this concept of being creators, everybody can be a creator. So we're giving a platform to the young adults. The young adults are then being able to use that as a learning tool, but it's also
Yep.
really amplifying everything that we are doing. So Bart,
Yeah.
you should
Oh, yeah.
contact us outside of here. I'm just going to go ahead and drop my phone number in the chat.
Yeah,
And
please. I'll give you a call because
and
we
you can
have
feel
a
free to be giving me
yeah,
a call.
yeah, it's
Awesome.
great. Yeah,
And
thank you.
we should give a high shout out to Leo, who's been a volunteer on a lot of our phone banks that has a podcast as well.
Oh, that's right. You do.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous one. Jack, you have a question.
Oh, Tamara, I was hoping to grab some of the ones that are in the
Oh,
chat.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So we have
pick both of them.
Adler. He said the program tonight focuses on college students. Are you addressing working youth? Break down the educating versus non-educated divide.
So that is such a great question. I'm going to ask Justin, do you want to speak to one of the great things that we did during this last year where we are expanding beyond those four-year colleges?
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm going to mute myself so that you can talk.
Yeah, so there we go. On the great question. So on the college campuses program, exactly what you said, we knew, we can't just be focusing on four-year colleges because that's not where all the young people that we want to reach are going to be. So we, during this year, are working on expanding into two-year community colleges, into trade schools, also through that phone banking program and the training program, like we mentioned, we're calling young voters who are registered in all these different states, regardless if they're on a campus or not. So we are making those efforts to contact young people who they might be on a college campus, they might not be, and our programs are open to students who whether they're in college or not, if they're just that like college age, high school age bracket. So our goal is to make it as accessible as possible for any young person, as well as to reach as many young people as possible, regardless of where they are. So that's why we're using all these different tactics so we can meet every young person where they are, regardless if it's on a college campus or not. I hope that helps.
I gotta tell you something, Justin. Leo, the podcaster and super volunteer, he said, "Are you hiring more people, or how do you apply?" So how would Leo get
So
involved?
go ahead and then also put we're going to put it in the chat.
Wonderful. So yes, when we put our link tree and our volunteer sign up link in the chat. It also has all of our youth program links on there for applications, for information to get involved. There's a section on our link tree that says youth organizing. So if you are a young person in this room or you know a young person that you want to get involved, send them that link, get involved. It has the links to our fellowship program if you are California based, for our on the ground in person canvassing and college campus program, or for when we have applications open for our Organized for Democracy cohorts, which the next applications will probably open in May. Those will be added there as well. So you can always go to that link tree to find our most up-to-date programming and the up-to-date applications to apply at.
And this might be a Daniela question. They're asking about which Gary said, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Although in-person connectivity is clearly most effective, do you recommend social media or something else for reaching larger groups of youth? If social media, what platforms do you recommend?
Yes, so we are all about using as many ways as possible. So as we discussed, the in-person ones and also social media. And so specifically, I think TikTok and Instagram are particularly great to reach a wide audience, as well as some of the social platforms divide more by demographics. And so Facebook, for example, is really great to still continue to use, as well as Snapchat. Snapchat is very popular with a younger demographic. So all these platforms, also X and Blue Sky, which now are very divided by partisan politics, as we know, but still important to post on both to have a wide reach. So we post on all those, also YouTube, which is for longer form content. So wherever you are most active, that is a great place to repost or share your own stories or be able to use that as a platform. And in my intro, I forgot a key part, which is I'm super excited to lead our creators table, which consists of 7 young adults who are students who are already very talented in filming, editing, producing on their own, and being able to work with them is absolutely a highlight because they're also creative. And we also have Spanish speakers in the creators table group, so we're able to do bilingual videos, so making as much of an impact as we can. Thank you for the question.
Tamara, there was a question here. M said, have you thought about registering high school students 16 years and above in anticipation?
Yes. So, Justin, am I correct that in many cases when we're working with our high school students, that we actually provide those who would like, we can actually give them some of the materials, and we're doing it more in our California ones because we're trying to go to those 4 California districts. But our students across the country, we do help give them the resources so they can run voter registration drives in their schools. When you are doing it in the schools, you are specifically targeting and making sure that we are getting those that are that age before voting who can do early voter registration, and so that we can make that happen. Absolutely, 100%. Malachi, I'd like to let you ask a question. Go ahead. Go here. I think you
Okay.
try it again. There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Before I ask my question just quickly, I just wanted to share how cool this is. Seeing so many people here on the Zoom call. It's just really cool. And obviously it was great meeting Kamala Harris's national youth outreach person. It was really cool. This is a really great event that you guys set up. But besides that, my question was, besides being a GDHQ fellow, I'm also very heavily involved in high school Democrats, and one of the things that we're trying to do that's a bit hard is trying to get students, specifically juniors and seniors um, who can vote in 2028, some of them in 2026, to like in-person campaign events or in-person like canvassing events. But like my question would be how, because I see your guys' Instagram page and everything, and it's you guys always get to have youth in your events. So what is the best ways, like best social media tactics that you guys have used in order to outreach and to get like high schoolers and young people to like in-person events?
That's a great question. And I also want to shout out Malachi. Thank you so much for being one of our amazing fellows, and particularly in social media, he's always reposting, sharing, uplifting our things, which is one of the tactics in order to get more youth to these in-person events, is to have people who are other folks, friends like yourself, Malachi. When you repost that, then you are able to be an influencer within your own sphere, and other folks who we would never reach without you having done that can see these events, learn about them, know where to go. So even just reposting, sharing, I think definitely also having a personal perspective. So I try and do now, like, getting out of my comfort zone and doing more camera facing videos. And I'm sure people have heard a lot about being authentic, but it is true. You do want to be prepared. You don't want to, completely forget what you're talking about. So preparation for a certain element, but also being real with people. Like yesterday, I made a video about the event that we have coming up, an in-person event. Also a plug, for Sunday, we're phone banking in person for Virginia, and it's here at the Garden HQ. And I personally love the flowers that are outside and the butterfly garden that the Meltzer Levensons have created here. And so that's something that's really interesting to me and gorgeous. And it ties in because the Garden HQ is what we're promoting as the location. And so making an extra video talking about the flowers and like how this beautiful walkway that you'll see if you come to our phone bank. And so being authentic in your own self in that way, but also not just me, like sharing. We have such an amazing group of people who work with us on so many different levels. And so my perspective may resonate with some people, but getting as many different people as we can to share their perspectives, because those resonate with different people and can reach the widest audience. And especially bringing in young people to these events and making sure that people know that like all demographics, ages are welcome, and creating a really inviting space.
Daniela, you need to do a feature of Malachi's lizards.
Oh my gosh, I would love to. That's incredible. I will ask more questions about it. And we'll talk about making a video with the lizards and all that later. I'll definitely be reaching out to you about that.
Okay. Oops, sorry. Oh, I love that. So, I think that we are kind of coming to the end. It really has been an incredible evening with you. I am now remembering why when Davis first started creating these happy hours for us, they were always so much fun. They were a way of kind of coming together so we can learn something new. We can dive into something for an hour. We can grab ourselves a glass of wine, a cup of coffee, cup of tea, Diet Coke, whatever you want. I happen to have all of them here. I just want to show. I'm realizing I got my cup, I got my this, and I have my wow. I covered it all. But what I want to tell you is, we're going to keep doing these. If you enjoy them, if you think that they have value, we're going to find our next topic. We're going to keep on going. We want to keep community going. What we have to remember is that when we organize, we win. When we sit back and we become a spectator, politics is not a spectator sport. Go to the streets, find your action you want to do. Put your feet on the ground and go door knocking. Put your hand on a telephone and actually phone bank. Write a postcard. And if you are doing all of that, fantastic. And if you're not going to do any of that, donate. And then donate again. And then find your candidate who you want to donate for. Because the seriousness that I want to tell you is that we have grown a program here and we partner with some amazing partner groups for youth. We partner with Voters of Tomorrow, which is where Eve Levenson is the board president. We partner with Blue Future. We partner with the College Democrats of America, the California College Dems, the Virginia College Dems, the Wisconsin College Dems. And then we go on to all the high school Dems. I could just do all the list. We are the big tent that is making sure that we connect, we collaborate, and we build the infrastructure that allows people to jump on the train of organizing whenever they want to do it. So please, you just saw what we're doing with the youth. Join us, donate, and now come and do the work yourself. Did I end on anything else? Should I end on any other note, Davis?
No, I think that covers it.
Fantastic. Want to say thank you to all of you. And we will see you at the next one. And by the way, if you're looking for something to do for this weekend, Pamela McAfee will be, I want to make a joke. It's not going to come out right, but I was trying to say, like, if you wanted to be there with your favorite podcaster, you want to be there with your favorite artist who is a DJ. Well, Pamela McAfee can be your favorite person that is running phone banks. So join us and join Ella and join who else is going to be leading phone banks for us? And Tessa, because Virginia for fair elections is what it's all about right now. And join us on every day of the week this week, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And when the polls close and we win, I want you to take a moment and realize it's because of the coalition that we're building, the people in this Zoom, and the donations that you made. Thank you all for being here tonight.